Let's have a talk. So if you're like me, you're handsome and have absolutely no clue what Anthem actually is. I've heard it compared to Destiny, The Division, Diablo, and more, so I decided to embark on a quest for truth, because if I stopped to ask myself what did I really know about Anthem, I would have probably just said it's a looter shooter that you can fly in and has armor suits, also known as javelins. So for a guy in the gaming business, I either missed advertisements and promotions, or there really is not a lot about Anthem out there for the public. What I found out is there's honestly very little information out there about Anthem beyond the basics, and that led me to believe it's intentional, because if you have a really great product, you let it be known and you execute it with confidence. So naturally, I spent a few hours absorbing info to process it into one compact little turd of a video, so you guys could have the answers too. You're welcome. It only made sense to me to start with the developers and their social media to find the information that I craved. Their website and socials pushed a massive hype campaign entirely focused on what I already knew. We have 4 suits, oh my god, you can fly, oh my god, you can customize your javelin to look amazing, oh my god, and those are all great things, and enough if you're 3 years old, but you need to get that Happy Meal shit out of my face and bring me something with some meat on it. I uncovered the basics of what their game is on their site, what javelins can do, and a bit about the story and activities. Their Twitter was plastered with promotion of the customization options, and didn't offer any new information about the game, though many of their team did provide transparency for some of the smaller portions of the game, and they did a great job responding to the community's criticism and handled their issues and bugs with finesse. Bravo to them, that needs to be a community standard. After browsing more information and watching some livestream portions, I discovered the game launches with 3 strongholds, which is the Destiny equivalent of a strike, contracts, which are a lot like bounty runs, and free roam, which seems to be designed as a resourceful way to find materials for crafting. We also discovered that in-game difficulties scale a lot like they do in minigames, most comparable to Diablo, and it is one that I despise, and that's simply because giving enemies more health and damage is not really a way to progress through your game. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. This knowledge alone wasn't enough for my fat boy appetite. I needed the main course. I still had unanswered questions like, what was in-game? How will the progression work? Why is Haggis a thing? With all of these questions, I did the unspeakable. I went to watch other videos from the media and YouTubers who were sent out to a capture event. Don't worry, I cleared my history. To my surprise, there were a few honest reviews out there, those of which are linked in the description as references, and are solid examples of in-game content and opinions on it. This is finally where I got some answers to those questions that I had. These individuals were flown out to participate in a capture event where the devs provided them a level 30 account, fully equipped with some solid gear to participate in the Grandmaster I Difficulty, which is the first of 3 of the in-game difficulties. All the reviews and influencers came back with the same belief that the strongholds will be the in-game loot progression activity and how you will push your gear to pursue higher difficulties. The game only launches with 3 strongholds, which you unlock by playing through the game, and were provided one of them in the demo, Tyrant Mine, which is what you're watching in the background right now. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. What? Only 3 strongholds? Don't be that girl. The reality of the situation could be worse. According to many of the people at the event, the game has one large shared loot pool, which means if it's true, there will be no exclusive activity gear, no stronghold-specific loot so that there's a reason to do different strongholds, there's going to be nothing unique to earn via just free roam, one large loot table for all activities, and this is where things finally click for me, and I am hoping I am so wrong. My vision here is as gamers, I mean, hell, as people, we want to put in minimal effort for maximum gain. This really resonates with the RPG community and those who love grind games, which is my preferred genre. What I predict will happen is that the community will beat the game. They'll progress through, push single player and the story missions until all 3 strongholds are unlocked. Whichever stronghold is the fastest to complete or offers the most loot for time invested will be the one that everyone, yes, I said that in all caps, will race to farm. If I am right about this, it doesn't matter if the game is launching with 3 strongholds or 300 of them. Whichever is the most efficient will be the one that they farm over and over and over and over again. In a weird way, the demo could have been an exact preview of what the entire launch may be like, where you jump on and keep playing the same stronghold back to back, possibly even Tyrant Mine. It's common in games that earlier missions are the easiest and fastest, so are you cool with paying 60 bucks for a demo? If this prediction is correct, for all activities, the start, middle, and end game will you be playing the exact same mission over, probably hundreds of times in a row. The map doesn't change, the enemies will behave the same. The only change you may feel is when you get to a point that you want to ramp up the difficulty, and the enemies just become tankier and hit harder, which will actually slow down progression for a while. Playing the hard difficulty on Tyrant Mine, a few friends and I knocked the whole entire stronghold out in about 20 to 30 minutes start to finish. Some of them reported that even with the gear that they were awarded inside of this capture event, the stronghold took them over an hour to finish, with more than 30 minutes on the boss fight alone. This concerns me because it may mean the gear doesn't scale well enough to increase the enemy's health, which translates to a slower completion time and slower rewards. The only reason these grind games work is because the rate at which you earn loot, and the loot itself needs to be worth repeating and just continuously grinding, and basically overwhelm the boring aspects of that grind. I felt like you needed to know this, as it may launch this way, but truthfully it's an easier fix to tweak the damage model, and I'm not going to strike the game on something they can tweak within a reasonable time frame. I'm buying the game. I will love it despite it launching without a real endgame in sight. Looter shooters just tickle my gaming spot. You, however, need to ask yourself if you could play the same exact mission 200 times over. Did you stick with Sea of Thieves, Destiny, Division, or Warframe at launch? Were those games enough for you? The loot needs to justify the grind, and that's still an unknown variable. Still many questions out there. We've seen preview from the capture event, but we still don't know how rewarding the higher difficulties will be, nor do we know if the tiny changes in loot when you do get upgrades will actually influence battles. There have been reports that the guns feel like a useless filler compared to abilities the further you progress. This will disappoint a lot of people who love the rewarding feelings of getting guns in Destiny that actually might impact the fight versus just being something you do until cooldowns are up. Again, another thing they can easily fix quick post-launch, but you deserve to know. Free roam could be the in-game savior if they turn it into a dense boss realm with lots of obtainable loot that rivals that of the strongholds. It's definitely the most fun way to play the game by roaming versus being stuck on the tracks forced to do a particular mission. As of right now, it looks to be the source of crafting materials with a little bit of loot to go along with it, so that remains to be seen. Their difficulty scaling system by making enemies tankier is definitely a common practice and a very lazy solution for progression, especially for a strictly PvE game, and it reeks of a limited content release that will result in a clear in-game road full of content that drips out slower than you walk in Fort Tarsus. It looks like they are drawing out the early game by providing slow progression and drop the juicy stuff months down the line when they have more time to work on it. Tankier boss fights and situations will almost certainly strip the solo player of a chance of participating in efficient in-game farming, and this creates a couple of problems. Besides the obvious no lone wolfing problem, which a lot of people like to play on their own, those who invest the hours early on will push to higher difficulties in gear, where the new players to the franchise, or even your friends that just don't have a lot of time in their lives, won't be able to join in because of the restrictions of those. They won't be able to contribute to the fight. This isn't new, but in a lot of games, getting carried or boosted up to level may not be realistic if these difficulties really do come true. The stress of the duration of a full squad of 4 javelins takes an hour to beat a stronghold at higher difficulties, then having a person that can't contribute would turn it into a much longer run, and a lot of people won't be down for that. The only thing we can hope for is that later on in-game, they either have eventually found a way to blow through strongholds efficiently and fast, so we can actually play with our friends versus random people in matchmaking, or that they actually create a new activity that, no matter what your level is, you all can participate and still reap the rewards. This is about as bare bones of a launch that I have seen. We know events are coming that will provide new activities and strongholds, not that those will be useful, again, because of the farming methods mentioned previously, and over time, these are just going to trickle out, and we know that a raid-like experience is coming soon. They've kind of stepped away from calling it a raid, which is a little confusing unless it's nothing like a raid, or because if they stamp the tag raid on it, people are going to expect something expansive and huge, and it's not quite that either. So that honestly had me a little concerned for why wouldn't they use the term raid unless it's actually a little lackluster and people are going to get let down because it's not going to be that big of an activity. But again, another fear of mine pushed aside. The roadmap is supposed to launch near or shortly after launch, conveniently after they have all the monies. I just want to be clear to you guys that I'm prepared for this game to be a little boring and strapped for activities, but I'm still attracted to it. But for those of you with standards, you may want to consider waiting till people have played a week with the Origin premiere, or hold off entirely until around Black Friday or longer, so you have solid content and an idea of the trajectory of the game. We've seen similar games in recent history like the Division and Warframe launch with limited activities and a throttled in-game vision develop into beautiful games. We just have to pray that EA sticks with the game and allows Anthem to hit puberty and come into its own. There's always the chance that I could be entirely wrong about this, or they could have nice hidden system and are going for the mysterious, mind-blowing approach versus actually not talking about in-game because it's not really there yet. Or I could be exactly right, and that's why I made this video. You need to be prepared for that possibility. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. I will be live streaming the whole grind during the early access a week leading up to the launch, and we'll provide you an updated video by launch here so you guys could cancel your pre-orders or skip it altogether if it's not ready. So be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you know when that video actually drops. Due to the lack of accessible information out there, I fully expect the majority of the player base to leave within the first few weeks and return months down the line when it's more established, as is the pattern with these games. Ultimately, it's your call. I'm buying it, I know what it is now and what it could eventually be, and I'll be that 1% that loves it. So if you're just looking to be disappointed and waste $60, here's my PayPal, I'll come have sex with you.